Now that E3 2016 is almost over, I thought I'd share some of my thoughts about what was shown. First out of the gate was Microsoft with their announcement of a brand new slim Xbox, as well as a future, more powerful Xbox codenamed Project Scorpio, to compete with PlayStation's Neo. I'm not really sure how I feel about these new powerful consoles, but if they extend the generation, I'm not really complaining. It's just a little annoying knowing I have to buy a new machine to play slightly better games or to have games play better in the future. It's a little annoying, but as long as current games and future games work on old consoles, I'm fine with it. Now, I don't have an Xbox One, so if there was ever anything that wanted me to get into Xbox One, I'm always looking for it. I'm always looking for a reason to get involved with Xbox One, or pick up one. So far though, nothing's convinced me to do so, and this conference really didn't change that opinion. They showed off Gears of War 4, which honestly looks pretty boring, in my personal opinion, and for a franchise that was always known for having cutting-edge graphics, it didn't really wow me, I gotta say. I just don't think it has the same pull it once used to. They also showed off Halo Wars 2, but I'm not into real-time strategy games at all. The last one I played was Age of Empires back in like 2000 or something, and I got bored of it within 5 minutes. They're just not my thing. They're the antithesis of fun for me. Forza Horizon looked good though. I'm genuinely a little jealous of that game. It looks so good. But I'm not into car games that much, so it wasn't a big deal to me. The best thing they showed was Dead Rising 4. I loved the first Dead Rising. I didn't play the other ones, but I loved the first one. And the fact that this is going to include Frank West, and it looks like it's a bit more open, a bit more fun than it used to be, really had me interested. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be exclusive to the Xbox One and PC. Pretty much all these games were announced for Xbox and PC, so if you're an owner of both, the Xbox kind of feels pretty defunct compared to the PC. I think the biggest disappointment though was that there was nothing from Rare. Like, people have been teasing stuff like maybe there'd be a new Battletoads, or maybe there'd be a Banjo-Kazooie game. Maybe! Instead we get Sea of Thieves, which I predicted from day one just wouldn't have enough going for it to make it interesting. It looks okay, it just doesn't look like something that people are gonna, go crazy for and rush for. It's certainly not what I want from Rare. I know some people like it, but for me personally, I'm not interested one bit. And for someone who grew up with Rare in the golden days on the N64, I personally think that the whole company is basically dead. It's like a zombie now. It's not what I would call Rare. If I had to rate the Microsoft conference, I'd probably give it a B-. It was good, it was snappy, they didn't waste much time, and there wasn't many embarrassing moments at all, really. Except for Minecraft. That whole scripted part was really, really, really bad.
Nice shot.
Thanks.
Let's get out of here.
In fact, the most enjoyable part about the Microsoft conference was this larger-than-life guy at the front who just cracked me up every time he turned around. I don't know why, I could not stop focusing on him. It was hilarious. Then it came time for Sony's conference, and holy hell, was it a big improvement over Microsoft's. I thought the new God of War looked interesting, but I'll put it this way, I love the God of War series. I've loved them all, but I was not interested in seeing any more from God of War because I thought the series was pretty much done. So this did get me interested. I'm just not sure if the way they're going with it so far, which looks to be sort of Last of Us, more realistic, sort of like having the camera so close to Kratos and having the attacks be so muted, is the right idea. But I'm interested, so I guess it worked. It was a good way to start off the conference, that's what I could say. Days Gone, I thought it looked at first the most generic thing, and I couldn't tell if it was about zombies or just about biker gangs. It was really unclear. And then they decided to end the show with a gameplay demonstration. But as the demo went on, and we got to see a sort of World War Z type onrush of zombies, it got pretty damn interesting, I gotta say. It still does look a little bit generic, kind of like the studio wants to make their own Last of Us. Despite how generic it looks, that little gameplay mechanic looks interesting enough to maybe make it unique enough to play. And finally, we have a release date for The Last Guardian. It's only taken nearly 10 years, but we're finally here, and I can't wait. I know, a lot of people say it won't live up to the hype. I don't really care. As long as it's exactly what it promised in the trailers and everything, that's good enough for me. It doesn't need to be the best game ever, just what it promised. And I think it's going to be fantastic because basically there's nothing else out there that's even closely like it. It stands alone. Resident Evil 7 was a huge surprise. When that demo began and continued, I thought for sure this is PT or Silent Hills or Kojima's new game. It has to be, right? It has to be, because it looked so similar. The way the character walked and the murkiness and grime of everything. I haven't played the demo yet, but it looks pretty damn good. And I like the fact that they're reinventing the series once again. It's good. I'm honestly interested. I was actually very surprised with Detroit Become Human. The level of branching paths it had, which were quite astonishing, was quite different from what David Cage usually does in his games, which usually is just one choice or the other. However, no matter how good it looks, it still felt kind of hokey and cheesy and overdramatic. And honestly, the only thing I'm looking forward to about Detroit Become Human is the Super Best Friends Let's Play, because they are legendary. And another thing long time coming was of course the return of Crash Bandicoot, which I guess somehow gained momentum, even though in the past decades nobody really talked about Crash Bandicoot. People talked about Banjo-Kazooie, they talked about Conker, they talked about Mario, they talked about Zelda. Nobody talked about Crash Bandicoot. It seems like in the past year a couple of people jumped on board wanting him back, and then everyone else just piled on board, just joining the bandwagon. Personally, I'm just glad it got announced so people will stop asking for a new Crash game, because I just don't think the character or the games are that exciting to warrant all this hype. Of course, the best thing though, the absolute peak of not only the Sony conference, but of all of E3, like it is with every E3, was the arrival of the one and only Hideo Kojima. His entrance blew me the fuck away. Even the introduction, when that guy was hyping this guy up before we even knew who he was, I kept saying Kojima, Kojima, Kojima. I knew who it was. And then to come on stage down that ramp with that music, it was perfect. Just perfect. And that song, if anyone is interested what it is, it's called Brothers in Arms. It's from the Mad Max Fury Road soundtrack, which is one of the best films of all time. And then that trailer, there's no other game trailer like that in all of E3, and I'm so glad it wasn't just a CG trailer, and it was in-game. The song choice was completely perfect. Some people are speculating it might not even relate to the final game, it was just sort of a thing to get us interested in Kojima's next game, but it has nothing to do with Death Stranding or whatever this new game is with Kojima. I'm not so sure about that, but there is definitely a lot of symbolism in the trailer. Some people are saying that it's purgatory and that Norman Reedus' character is dead. Because of that scar on his abdomen, maybe that's an autopsy scar. You never know. Some people are suggesting that maybe Norman Reedus, and it's fantastic to get like one of the best loved television actors today in the game, by the way. Other people are saying it's a bit more complicated than that, and Norman Reedus is supposed to be Kojima after he was let go from Konami, washed up. And that the baby is supposed to be representing Metal Gear, Kojima's baby, as it gets taken away from him. And the 5 things you see up in the sky are supposed to represent the 5 Metal Gear games, even though Kojima's directed more than 5 games. It's an interesting theory anyway. Kojima trailers always have tons of symbolism, way more than you can dissect from even a couple of dozen views. But yes, by far the best moment of the conference, and elevated it from what was already a great conference into one of the all-time greats. For me personally, Kojima makes E3. Every single time he's shown a trailer, it's been my favorite trailer. It's been my favorite part of the conferences. No matter which conference it's on or what it's about, it's always been my favorite. And I'm glad to see that that hasn't changed, because he brought it. And if I had to grade the Sony conference, A+, easily. And of course, the main thing Nintendo showed off was the brand new Legend of Zelda, which has now been given the subtitle Breath of the Wild. Which is, it doesn't really feel like a catchy title, if you ask me. Certainly doesn't feel like a Legend of Zelda title. Honestly, I think Wild Hunt would have been far better, but that's already been taken. It looks good though. It looks like a very good game. I'm just not sure if it's going to be great. It's the first time the series has gone open world. We'll just have to wait and see. I am glad there's voice acting in it though, Little steps forward at a time for Nintendo, but yeah, I'm always excited for a new Zelda, no matter what. Even though I thought Skyward Sword was, so far, the worst 3D Zelda we've had in a long time. Maybe ever. Because it was just, I hated it. I really did hate it. I couldn't believe how bad it was. But I'm excited for this one no matter what. And those were my thoughts on E3. I just felt like getting out there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Take care.